On today's episode of Locked On Wild, no, Ryan Hartman is not getting traded to the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Hey, this is Matt Boldy, and you're listening to Locked On Wild.
You're Locked On Wild, your daily podcast on the Minnesota Wild, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Locked On Wild, your daily Minnesota Wild podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team each and every day, and we thank you for making Locked On Wild your first listen each and every day as well. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and follow us on your favorite podcast platforms so you don't miss out on any new episodes throughout the week. Today's episode of Locked On Wild is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. On today's episode of Locked On Wild, we will take a look at the NHL's top 20 top forwards, defensemen, and goaltenders under 25, because the Minnesota Wild had a player on each of those lists. So we'll take a look at who landed where and whether we agree or disagree. We'll also take a look at the Minnesota Wild schedule, which features 14 back-to-backs. We'll talk about how big of an issue that may be, or if it's purely annoying. And we'll also finish by talking about my favorite subject, reculation, because it turns out there are some new trade rumblings that are circulating that, well, not just don't seem feasible. So we'll talk about that here on today's show as well. My name is Seth Toupal, host of Locked On Wild, host of Seth on Sports, and credentialed media member as well, joined by Alex Micheletti for a Monday episode of the show. Alex, we are moving through the month of July already, which means that we're about 2 months away from the start of the preseason. Obviously, you'll have training camp start, a week or two before that. So if you want to really look at it, we're about 6 weeks away from the start of Minnesota Wild hockey, which means that the dream is getting ever closer, and the summer months of rest and recharging the batteries are slowly coming to an end.
Yeah, we we still have some big news to try to figure out with 97 and Rossi. So that is always on the back of everyone's minds, and it's could be exciting. You got the Olympic year too, so we'll see what comes up with that, and we got the World Juniors at the X too. So yeah, it's gonna be a fun hockey season here in Minnesota.
It is, and we will get into all the particulars. We're going to take a look at the schedule because that came out. We're not going to go crazy heavy into it. We're just going to talk about kind of the notable things to watch for. Obviously, as you mentioned, the World Juniors are going to be in Minneapolis and St. Paul, which is going to lead to a lengthy road trip and back-to-backs as well. But I wanted to start. The NHL had Young Players Week last week, which was a celebration of some of the young talent that makes up the NHL. And they had a bunch of lists that they put together, tried to celebrate, prospects throughout the course of the league. And they put together lists of the top 10 forwards, top 10 defensemen, and top 10 goaltenders under the age of 25 in the NHL right now. And let's start with the forwards. I'm going to read the list in order. Number 1 on the list was Tim Stützle. Number 2, Jack Hughes. Number 3, the Minnesota Wild's own Matt Boldy. Number 3 on the top 10 forwards under the age of 25 list. Wyatt Johnston was number 4. Cole Caulfield, number 5. Connor Bedard, number 6. Macklin Celebrini, number 7. Matthew Nyes, number 8. Seth Jarvis, number 9. And Matvei Michkov, number 10. Are you surprised that Matt Boldy is as high as he is on this list, Alex? Or does number 3 feel pretty right for a guy that I think doesn't get as much? I don't think he gets as much recognition as he should, considering the numbers that he's already put up.
Yeah, he had an amazing, first round playoff, he was willing that team to, to some victories, trying to keep the Wild in it. Maybe it's a little high for for a lot of people, but if he continues on that path that he did in the playoffs, watch out. He's definitely the second most important player on the Wild there to help 97 in the scoring department. So yeah, sky's the limit for Boldy.
And I think a lot of him being put at 3 had to do with that playoff run where he had 5 goals in the 6 games, because Cole Caulfield, who was drafted the exact same year as Boldy, has about 20 fewer points than Boldy does. He does have more goals, but they're pretty similar as far as scoring goes. And you look at Wyatt Johnston, who is a prolific 30-goal scorer for the Dallas Stars, had a quiet postseason, and that stuff matters. Like, it's great to put up regular season numbers, but getting it done in the playoffs is really all that matters. And Boldy, I think, kind of put himself above those guys by just being a real force in that series against the Vegas Golden Knights.
Yeah, it was incredible. I mean, he was doing everything, and for a team that struggles so much in the postseason, he was there to answer the bell. And the goals he scored were really impressive goals too. So that that adds to it. And yeah, the debate of Boldy Caulfield, I'll remember that. Yeah, so. It's worked out for both teams, but I think Boldy's deserving of that spot right now.
Yeah, he took Aiden Hill out to lunch several times in that series. Like, come on, man, guy's got a family.
Right.
The top 10 defensemen under the age of 25. Get a load of this list. Number 1, Jake Sanderson. Number 2, Minnesota Wild's own Brock Faber. Number 2 on the list. Moritz Seider is number 3. Thomas Harley is number 4. Lane Hudson, number 5. Luke Hughes, number 6. Owen Power, number 7. Simon Edvinsson, number 8. Alexander Nikishin, number 9. And Leon Bichelle, number 10. I will say I think Faber might be a little high for my view on this list, but I think his potential is kind of what puts him this high for a guy that has only been in the league for 1 full season. I think we're seeing what a lot of teams are hoping to see more of from Brock Faber, as the reason that he gets so much as much props as he does on this list.
Yeah, the minute total. I mean, he was thrusted into high leverage right away, and he's handled it pretty well, I would say. Maybe this past season, maybe he was just banged up a little bit at the end and was kind of wearing down. But now he knows, what
2 full seasons, by the way. I should correct myself. He's played 2 full seasons.
Right, and so now he's used to it with his body, I think, and he'll train specifically for that to hopefully not wear down as much. And I think Zeev coming in and being full time, Brock might not have to play as many minutes, on special teams, specifically the power play. Zeev can be the top dog on that, and Faber could be the second unit or solely focus on, penalty kill and playing those harder minutes. So that might help him out, a little bit as well to stay more fresh, especially, if they are able to make the playoffs again. And the sky's still the limit for him. It that trade couldn't have worked out better. I know, we don't know about Ogren, but Faber's the real deal.
Yeah, he's a minutes muncher, and I agree with you fully that it may not seem like it makes a big difference, but even if the Wild can take one of power play or penalty kill off his plate, I think that's going to make a massive difference in just keeping him fresh. Like, he was one of the few players, and he played 78 games out of a possible 82, but he was one of the few defensemen that actually got up that high. So he's just having to fill everybody's spot as they're out. And it gets to be a lot after a while. So let's keep him fresh.
And Brodin's starting the season off injured, so it's gonna be gut check time for. Hopefully, Zeke can help out Brock, and Bogosian's probably going to have to play, and Middleton, just don't step in front of a puck, please. We don't need another broken, bone for the decor. So, and then Spurgeon too is getting up there in age. So yeah, it's going to be gut check time already at the beginning of the year. So we'll see what comes about it.
Never a dull moment. The top 10 goalies under the age of 25 are as follows. Number 1 on the list is Dustin Wolf. Number 2 is Spencer Knight. 3 is Yaroslav Askarov. Number 4 is Levi Miralainen. Number 5 is Jacob Fowler. Number 6 is Trey Augustine. Number 7 is the best name of the bunch, Jet Greaves. Number 8 is Devin Levy. Number 9, Minnesota Wild's own Jesper Wallstedt. And number 10 for the Pittsburgh Penguins is Joel Blomqvist. So right off the bat, Dustin Wolf at number 1, perfectly fine with that. I have no issue with that whatsoever. Yeah. He's fantastic. I like Askarov in the top 3 because I think we'll have the opportunity to show that this year.
He's just on a horrible team. Well, I mean, defensively. I mean, their forward group is going to start to really, really show things, but defensively, he's kind of left out on an island a lot.
Are you surprised that Jesper made this list?
Oh, 100%. We still don't know the full book on Jesper. It was a nightmare last season. I think the Wild didn't do Jesper any favors to telling him that he has, get an apartment. You're going to be up in St. Paul, for the season. That didn't help him get off to a good start mentally. And then he's stuck in Iowa on probably the worst, one of the worst teams in the league the past couple seasons. And last year was just downright horrendous. So mentally, he had a really tough season. So I don't know if he deserved a spot just because there's so much unknown with him right now. Maybe they're just going just based off because he was a first-round draft pick. The jury's out on him right now.
Yeah, and I will say I will continue to be vocal about the fact that I think the fact that Marc-Andre Fleury played as well as he did. And the fact that Philip Gustafson was as good as he was, I think led to Bill Guerin changing his mind. If he simply doesn't lock himself into one of those foot in mouth moments, I think we're having a completely different conversation right now. I mean, obviously the numbers in Iowa weren't great, right? But I think by just starting off the same way that he did with, like, you just line these moments up, like when Marco Rossi made the team and they had the video of him, congratulations. And he played 19 games and he got sent down. And same thing for Kalen Addison. And he was not long for the roster after that. Like, let's just not box ourselves into a corner. And maybe this plays out a little differently is all I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm with you. Maybe that's what they're thinking with Rossi and Kaprizov right now. They're being very, kind of just nonchalant about it. So I guess we'll see when it comes to those two. But yeah, Jesper he's going to be so important to how this successful this team is going to be. Like we're going to talk about back-to-backs. He's going to have to play. So
yeah.
And if he's not, if he starts off just really struggling again, I guess, that's why you have Peterson in Iowa. But it's been a struggle for him in the NHL. He had decent numbers in the AHL last season, but, do you want to rely on him? Probably not at all.
No.
So Jesper's gotta be successful.
Yeah, he needs to be not only to back Philip Gustafson up, but to eventually supplant him. You bring in the prospect to eventually take the place.
Right. You drafted him in the first round for a reason.
So
to be the heir apparent.
It's interesting, and this is a list that I'm sure we'll be keeping an eye on over the next couple of years. But as you alluded to, Alex, Jesper's going to need to make some starts this year because the Wild have a wealth of back-to-backs. We'll take a look into the schedule, some of the particulars. Again, we're not going to go game by game or anything, but just some of the particulars of the schedule, some things that jump off the page. We'll talk about that as we continue today's episode of Locked on Wilds after this. Today's episode of Locked on Wild is brought to you by FanDuel. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you are all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. FanDuel makes it so easy to place a variety of bets. Minnesota Vikings season is going to be getting underway here soon. You can throw down on the Vikings to win the NFC North, to win the NFC, to win the Super Bowl. You can throw all those futures down, or if you want to get in on the 3M Open action, that is another option for FanDuel. Every sport, every possible event, FanDuel has you covered. So new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. Welcome back to today's episode of Locked on Wild. Once again, we thank you for making Locked on Wild your first listen each and every day. Again, make sure to hit that like button on YouTube and subscribe on your favorite podcast platforms. We're over the 3,500 subscriber mark on YouTube. So thank you to everybody for making that happen. Let's get to 36. Let's get to 4. Let's get to 5. Let's just keep it rolling here. Alex, the schedule is officially out. And the Minnesota Wild, by my math, 14 back-to-backs this season. They start the season on the road against the St. Louis Blues on October 9th. They will host the Columbus Blue Jackets for the home opener for the second consecutive season. And we roll through all the way to the final game, which is again against the Anaheim Ducks on April 14th. So there's a lot to dive into for the schedule. You've, of course, got the break in February for the Olympics, which will be from February 5th through February 25th. A lot of different back-to-backs. I went through and looked. 3 of the 14 involve a Central Division rival on the second night of the back-to-back. You've got the first back-to-back of the season, which features the Los Angeles Kings on a Monday, and then the Dallas Stars on a Tuesday. So you play Dallas on the second night. And if we just take a quick little peek at the Dallas Stars schedule to see if they also play, they do not. So they got fresh legs going into that matchup. You have a interesting back-to-back later on in the season where you face Colorado on night 1, and then you are taking on the Utah Mammoth on night 2 of that back-to-back. You've got a road at against the Los Angeles Kings in January. You have the 7-game road trip from December 27th through January 8th for the World Juniors. And once again, at the end of the season, you've got a couple of key divisional games, although this time the 3 games before your finale at home, at Dallas, at Nashville, at St. Louis. So there's some intrigue at the schedule here this year, but I guess I just got to say, can we get some leniency on the back-to-backs? Vegas has 7. The Vegas Golden Knights have 7 back-to-backs this year.
Yeah, that makes zero sense. Yeah, like I mentioned, I mean, Jesper's going to have to play, and he's going to have to play well. You can't have Gus go on so many back to backs. So yeah, we're going to find out early, like I mentioned, what Jesper is made of, and yeah, like you said, I mean, with the Central Division ones, I mean, that could be a double whammy if I mean, to
Yeah.
lose out on 4 points is just would be killer within the division there.
Yeah, there are some interesting stretches. I mean, and I should look to see too for the state hockey tournament. Usually there are a few games. You've got at Vegas and at Colorado right around the time that the state boys hockey tournament will be going on,
Tough
which
games.
is always fun.
Right.
Yeah,
Tough buildings that the Wild struggle in.
you've got a home and home against the Chicago Blackhawks in March. And you've got your standard East Coast, West Coast trips right away at the beginning of the season, October 17th, at Washington, at Philly, at the Rangers, at the Devils. Is a nice little 4-gamer. And actually, it's 5 if you count the Dallas Stars on the first night of a back-to-back. You've got 2 back-to-backs in the same week within the first few games of the season, the 13th and the 14th, a Monday, Tuesday. Then you play on a Friday and a Saturday, a back-to-back. So, like, once again, I always say this, and if this is old man yells at cloud, so be it. I just want to talk to the schedule maker. Like, I just want to talk to him.
And
just want to talk to him.
Get travel plans for people in Iowa set up. Make sure get Craig's jet going if they need people on the road. With this team, we know there'll be some type of injury or bubonic plague that goes through the team. Just have the plane be ready in Iowa for call-ups.
Well, I will say at least this year, we are not going to have to worry. Now, there will be money that will be saved for the trade deadline. And if the Wild try to accumulate cap space, it wouldn't surprise me if they try to do that at points this year, just to try to save some up for the deadline if they are relatively healthy at that point. But we're not going to have to worry about 11-7s. We're not going to have to worry about players being recalled under emergency loan conditions, because this team is actually going to be able to afford to carry a full roster for the first time in like 3 years, which is just going to lead to a lot less stress. It doesn't mean there won't be any, but a lot less.
Yeah, they won't have to. Remember, we dealt with all last season where they had to calculate daily what the cap was going to be. I couldn't even imagine.
And you get the roster moves on a daily basis. Like, we sent this player down. We sent this player down. And it's like, oh, what's going on here? And it's like, they're trying to accumulate cap space. We don't have to worry nearly as much about that as in previous years, which honestly is going to save more of this. Before I started hosting Lockdown Wild, this was all dark, by the way. There was no gray in here. So we're doing great in that regard. But it's going to be interesting. It's a truncated schedule for sure. There aren't a crazy number of days in between games, like when things really get rolling. Obviously, with some of these road trips, you're talking about a Tuesday to a Friday. But for the most part, once the season gets started on October 9th, it's going to be all systems go until the middle of April.
Yeah, and the Central just gets harder and harder, right? I think a lot of teams did improve, especially Utah. I think Utah's right on the cusp of being in a playoff spot. So that's a team that the Wild will have to contend with. And we saw an interesting move by Winnipeg getting Jonathan Taves. We'll see if that works out. And Gabe Velarde just re-signed, so we'll see if Rossi's agent says, "Hey, Velarde got paid big time. Where is that? We think Rossi's just as good as Velarde." So that is going to be one interesting, because it's always the player comps, for Rossi's camp. So yeah, it's that one is going to be a battle for sure.
which is why it's a really good thing that the Minnesota Wild will have Ryan Hartman on the roster and that he's not going anywhere. I'll tell you what I mean in that regard when we come back right here on Locked On Wild. Final segment of today's episode of Locked On Wild. Once again, we thank you for making Locked On Wild your first listen each and every day. Again, hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube and follow us on your favorite podcast platform so you don't miss out on any new episodes throughout the week. Alex, I thought it would be kind of fun to finish because I watch other shows just to see kind of what everybody else's thoughts are on different things. Like I enjoy watching Judd's show quite often. I listen to Russo's podcasts with LaPanta. Wild on 7th. You know, I like to listen to other Wild shows just to kind of get a beat on where everybody else is at with the team. And sometimes you see stuff that just like kind of makes you wonder. I'm not gonna throw the name out of the show because again, I'm not trying to be mean to anybody or rude to anybody, but I really have had kind of an eye-opening experience here as to like some self-reflection. Like, what do I want Locked On Wild to do when players get mentioned in possible trade discussions, when there are rumors floating around, when there are different possibilities floating around as to a player that could be moved or a player that could be retained. And so I've done a little soul searching and trying to figure out, like, how do I want the show to act and react when stuff like this comes about? And it got me down to one core thought. Locked On Wild is always going to consider the source when doing anything regarding any rumors or possible trades, which is why the trade that I'm bringing up right now is one that we have not discussed and that I'm going to completely dismiss, and then we're going to move on because it comes from heavy.com. Trade idea sees the Toronto Maple Leafs acquiring $12 million top six forward to fill need. The Toronto Maple Leafs are looking to add another top six forward, and one trade idea has them landing one from the Minnesota Wild. Heavy.com proposed a deal that would see the Maple Leafs acquire Ryan Hartman from the Wild in an interesting choice of words, multiplayer deal. The Leafs acquire Ryan Hartman. The Wild acquire Nick Robertson, Cade Weber, and Calle Järnkrok. The Maple Leafs would trade 2 NHL forwards and a defensive prospect for a second-line forward who can add some much-needed offense to the lineup. Toronto would acquire Hartman, who's entering the second year of his 3-year, $12 million deal, and would project to be on the Maple Leafs' second line, but could even play on the top line, replacing Mitch Marner on right wing. Look, I like Ryan Hartman a lot. I think he's a great player. So I am not, Ryan, if you're listening, I'm not trying to throw any disrespect at you whatsoever. I think Hartman, I think Ryan likes it here in Minnesota. I don't think if he was presented with this as a possibility, I don't know that he would be willing to go, for one. But I also think Ryan Hartman is much better suited for this roster as a third-line guy primarily who can step up in the lineup in a pinch.
100%.
That's issue number one. Issue number two, a big part of the return for the Wild would be Robertson and Weber. Robertson is a good middle six forward who hasn't been given much of a role with Toronto. Robertson is a pending RFA and recorded 15 goals and 7 assists for 22 points in 69 games. The final part of the trade is Toronto dealing Järnkrok to make the salaries work. Järnkrok is in the final year of his 4-year, $8.4 million deal. He'd be a good bottom six forward for the Wild. Full stop. We don't need any additional bottom six forwards on this team, period, point blank. End of
100%. And they're already dealing with, Trennan's anchor of a contract. They don't need to add to it. They if they could get rid of him, they would. But there's nobody out there that wants what Trennan's making for the production, that he had.
So this is why I say we're going to consider the source. This is why it pays to be so plugged into what Michael Russo and Joe Smith are reporting, because they're getting it from actual legitimate spots. And those top level guys in the NHL, the top level insiders, they're getting stuff from legitimate places. There's nothing wrong with, I've done it myself. This is kind of how the Tage Thompson stuff started. Right. It was just I wonder, like, what if we could make this work? Like mad scientist, sorcerer kind of stuff.
This is even more reckless.
Yeah.
I don't know how they even thought of it. When we saw that come out, I was like, it's pure trash coming back to the Wild. I mean, it would make sense that Toronto would like Ryan Hartman, but that trade just makes zero sense for the Wild.
Yeah, like this is not something that makes the Minnesota Wild better. No, this makes them arguably worse as a team.
That's what Guerin keeps talking about with the Rossi situation is I'm not trying to make the team worse in a trade for whatever they're trying to move Rossi for.
So this is like, and I like to do the behind the curtain stuff for the audience because I think transparency is very important, because I do get people that send trade requests that are kind of intriguing, but a large part of the reason that I don't put them out is because there are enough people that follow this channel that you say something like that, and all of a sudden it starts spreading, and then people come back and they're like, no, we haven't heard anything about this.
Right. Aggregated or, gets out there. Like, I mean, look at that heavy article. No one really knew about that site, and it spread fast on social media.
Yeah. We shouldn't even be talking about it, but the fact that it has spread the way that it has, and I know that there are enough listeners that listen to other shows as well, that it has been seen by a bunch of eyes.
It was that, and then I'm sure you saw over the weekend too. This Eklund writer said that it was a guarantee, pretty much that Kaprizov and Panarin are going to go to Chicago next summer, which it made absolutely no sense at all.
Yeah, we're gonna just skip right over that one. But my point being is that because I value the time of this audience as much as I do, if it's something that is gaining enough steam in other spots, we will of course report on it and react to it. I think that's part of the best Locked On Wild episodes is reacting to stuff that is actual steam. But I don't really want to put stuff out there that has nothing behind it, because then somebody takes and runs with it, and then all of a sudden you get top level insiders and beat reporters being like, no, there's nothing to this. You're like, yeah, I knew that. So Ryan Hartman's not going anywhere, because even if it was a better return offered from the Toronto Maple Leafs, Bill Guerin is not trading Ryan Hartman, because he values what Ryan Hartman brings to this team right now. And I do too.
And the play of Ryan Hartman, that's why Rossi got bumped down, is because they thought Ryan Hartman was playing better and deserved the minutes, and he did. And that's what's added to the storyline of the summer.
Yeah, and say what you will about the decision to put Freddie Gaudreau ahead of Rossi in the lineup. That can certainly be questioned. Freddie Gaudreau, however, no longer here. So that is something that has been taken care of. But yeah, outside of Kirill Kaprizov, Matt Boldy, and Philip Gustafsson, Ryan Hartman was probably the next best player in that series against Vegas, and definitely earned the time.
Yeah, he's embracing being a playoff type of player, and that's why he is on this team, is because his game elevates, when it matters, which is playoff time.
So the point here, we will always consider the source, and I'm not perfect with this. This is a period. This is a growth from me when the first time that I started doing this show. This is now going to be season 5, year 4. You'll learn stuff as you go, but the importance is to kind of sift through the noise and, okay, there is definitely steam to this. Let's discuss it. This is something that I have not heard mentioned anywhere else. So we're just going to let that one sail on by. And that's where this Ryan Hartman trade proposal falls into, is there's nothing to it. So yeah, that's what we got for you. I'm gonna try to put an end to the reculation as much as I can. That's the new phrase we have coined, and we'll continue to discuss it as such. But that's what we got for you for today's episode. We will move back to player evals coming up tomorrow for you. I think we'll move to the defensive side after a couple of forwards. So those are coming up the rest of the week. Come August, we will have plenty of crossovers coming your way as well. And don't worry, we'll still have our regular episodes with Alex on Mondays to break down everything Minnesota Wild related. There's always plenty of news to discuss. So thank you for tuning in to today's episode. Make sure to hit the like and the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any new episodes throughout the week. We've got new episodes for you every Monday through Friday as part of the Locked On Podcast Network.